Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the afternoon plenary session of the Poultry School Online 2021. For this afternoon session, we still have 4 plenary speakers. They will be sharing with us their technical expertise in their respective field of specialization. We are very excited to start this afternoon's proceedings. To begin with, our moderator for this afternoon's plenary session is one of the prime movers of the Philippine College of Poultry Practitioners, being a former president of the college for 2 terms and currently the head of the Government Affairs Committee. She is a graduate of veterinary medicine from the University of the Philippines, Diliman in 1986. She has received distinctions from the UPCVM Alumni Association as Outstanding Alumna in Agribusiness and from the Philippine Veterinary Medical Association in 2015 as Outstanding Veterinarian in Zootechnics, Animal Health and Nutrition. She is an active fixture in the animal health and veterinary field, having served as a member and chairman of the Board of Veterinary Medicine of the Professional Regulation Commission, Office of the Philippine Veterinary Medical Association, and now chairman of the FAVA Subcommittee on Animal Welfare. She recently retired from corporate life after almost 29 years with Elanco Animal Health. Together with her daughter, they established Pet Specialist Corporation, a pet care and nutrition distribution company. Ladies and gentlemen, let us welcome one of the PCPP's pride, Dr. Lina S. Policarpio.
Thank you very much for that kind introduction. And we are on the last leg of the 2021 PCPP Poultry School Online, Resiliency Amidst the Challenges. Did you enjoy lunch? So everybody had lunch, I suppose. And I saw the post of some of our attendees, especially Dr. Pamela Tan. She had breakfast, she had lunch. And also si Dr. Royd Mosaso had his buffet lunch as well. So I hope you had your, rest after lunch and ready for this afternoon session. We're also hoping that next year we will be able to see each other face to face and be in interaction with each other as we share our experiences and challenges in poultry practice. But for now, we're stuck here and we will proceed to this afternoon's plenary session. But before we do that, we have, you know the drill by now. If you have questions for our speakers, please type them in the Q&A tab down below your screens. And also, after each presentation, please do evaluate our speakers for us to know where we can improve on. Also, evaluate the whole event, and then take the quiz after the Q&A. And what's new about this year's Poultry School Online is right after you have fulfilled all the quizzes and all the evaluations, you can get your certificates immediately. So sit back and listen to this afternoon session. Now, for this afternoon, we have lined up 4 very interesting topics to be delivered by 4 equally illustrious speakers. So let's move on for this afternoon session. Our first speaker for this afternoon's plenary session is a practicing poultry veterinarian for 3 decades. He earned his Doctor of Veterinary Medicine degree at the University of the Philippines, Diliman. He didn't mention the year though. He was awarded the Most Outstanding Poultry Practitioner and Most Outstanding Veterinarian in Poultry Practice by the Veterinary Practitioners Association of the Philippines and the Philippine Veterinary Medical Association, respectively. He also served as president of the Philippine College of Poultry Practitioners in the year 2003 and 2019. He is also a member of the Council for Specialty Colleges of the Philippine Veterinary Medical Association. He started his career in Vitarich Corporation as a broiler contract growing operations manager for 6 years, and the rest, as they say, is history in the Philippine poultry industry. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome one of the finest and most sought after poultry consultants today, Dr. Renato R. Rolyan.
Good afternoon, everyone, delegates, fellow veterinarians, and colleagues in the layer industry. I'd like to welcome you all to the second day session of the Philippine College of Poultry Practitioner Poultry School Online. As introduced, I am Renato Rolyan. I am an independent poultry consultant and I'm a chartered member of the PCPP. You know, for the past months or so, the layer industry is, together with other livestock industry, is facing a lot of challenges and tough times. And as the saying goes, tough times requires tough action. And that is why for this morning or for this afternoon, my topic is how we can adjust accordingly to this challenging time, and the title is How You Fine-Tune Your Commercial Layer Operation. So, aside from the objective, we will be discussing or we'll be explaining to you what a normal production cycle should be, what to expect from an efficient hen, so that you can compare it with your operation. And then, of course, I will be discussing the status of the layer operation from before the onset of the COVID until now. Hopefully, we can come up with the fine-tuning actions in order for our farmers to be resilient. And if we have time, we have time for question and answer towards the end. My main objective here is to provide information based on my practice so that this information will be available to the layer farmers to be able for them to be more competitive during these COVID challenging times. Now, if you are raising a normal pullet into a laying hen, and if you are done correctly, you are expected to produce something like 400 eggs per hen house at 90 weeks of age. This is based on the manual of a certain strain. Now, however, as a result of better housing facilities, probably better nutrition, better management, we are now targeting better efficiency. So I have seen farms that are attaining peak production up to 90 weeks of age, and because of this, as a result of the extension of the laying cycle, we are now seeing hens that are producing 500 eggs per hen house at 100 weeks of age. And that's a lot of eggs. Now, from the start of 2019 until the onset of COVID-19, the poultry raisers especially the egg farmers, are enjoying good prices. And because of that, this is also a consequence of the low supply of available DOP and RTL as replacement. And because of that, there are cases of old hens or extended flocks. When the prices are high, it is logical or it is practical for you to extend your flocks despite the lower production efficiency, because the high prices will compensate for the high cost. However, due to the decreasing prices of eggs now, it is no longer practical for us to maintain these old hens. However, since the supply of DOP has just normalized starting May, and this will become RTL by the time na maging September, meron pa rin tayo sa mga farms natin na maraming old hens. And these old hens are supposed to be producing eggs at a lower production efficiency, thereby increasing your production costs. Now, coupled with this is the fact that mataas ang ating mga raw material prices, leading to higher feed costs. And alam naman natin na nasa third quarter tayo, and historically, during this time, pangit ang quality ng raw material costs. And of course, the ever-existing problem of disease challenges, sana hindi tayo magkaroon ng AI, pero we have NCD, we have ND, IBD, and ILT. And because of travel restriction and probably documentation for importation, there has been a problem as far as the supply of certain vaccines which are needed to make sure that our flocks are healthy. Sample of which are mycoplasma, adenovirus vaccine, and of course the fowl cholera vaccines. Now, given the scenario of difficulties, nagkaroon pa tayo ng complexities dahil ang uncertainty ngayon ng ating market situation, as I will be explaining to you later on. There are cases that some farms are selling their products or their produce on certain sizes that they are selling it at lower than their cost. So they are losing money. So this is really a hard time for egg producers during COVID-19. Now, this is just to show you that from 2019 to 2020, the egg prices are very good, But starting 2021, you can see that it has steadily went down. And I think for July, we will be hitting something like 4 pesos and 60 centavos average selling price for the medium, which is probably less than a reduction of almost 1 peso from that of last year. So that's a lot of money. Now, I have here a list of fine-tuning actions in order for you to become competitive, And I will tackle them one by one. But the main objective of these steps is to improve your cost and hence improve your profitability. Hopefully, your survivability, So, number one, I know for a fact that for the past year, many of our racers are buying ready-to-lay pullets from whoever has the available RTL. And the prices has gone very high to as high as 340. My objective in showing you this slide is to be able for you to get your money's worth as far as your RTL is concerned. You can see here that based on their manual, these are supposed to be the weights that you are getting when you buy your RTL from your supplier, However, in more cases that I've seen, most of the RTL that are being delivered to you are supposed to be underweight. And this is a lot. If and when that you have problems with your RTL that you buy, then this is what you're going to do. You have to train your birds to eat what is supposed to be eaten because they have to gain weight. Because weight is important as far as feed production is concerned. Now, how do you do that? You have to make supplementation to stimulate feed intake. You have to make changes in your feeding management. You can do midnight feeding, etc., etc. But the main target here is actually you have to synchronize the sexual maturity of your birds based on your body weight. If your RTL has various weights ranging from a difference of 100 grams, then you can either delay the good body weight pullets, and so that you can make sure that the small ones will be able to catch up with the standard weight pullets, and that's synchronization. However, if you do that, that will mean a delay of probably 1 to 2 weeks from the onset of play. But this is better than having to stimulate your birds while they are underweight. So all in all, the target of these things that you're going to do if you have a bad RTL is to have a correct body frame and body weight at the point of play. As I mentioned earlier, your point of play will vary depending on the weight of your RTL at 16 weeks. So if you are, ideally, we should be targeting a point of play pullet at 18 to 19 weeks. But if you have poor RTL based on weight, this can be delayed by 1 to 2 weeks at the most. Then, of course, when you buy your RTL, make sure that the vaccination program that is given in the RTL that you're buying will match the disease profile of your farm. Most of the RTL that you're buying do not have vaccination for ILT, for fowl cholera, and for mycoplasma. So if you have those problems at the farm, then you have to vaccinate them at the farm level, because failure to do so will cause your disease incidence at the farm. This is just to reiterate my point that the body weight of the pullet at point of play is very critical, more so in the attainment of the 500 eggs per hen house by 100 weeks. And according to the study of this scientists, they were saying that the body weight at the onset of production has a bearing and will influence the efficiency of egg production, whether it's 90 weeks or whether it's 100 weeks. Now, if and when you are able to get your good pullet, and if you are going to on peak, my suggestion is you have to use the correct type of feeds to match your bird's requirements. Well, how do I mean by that? What do I mean by that? There are cases wherein there will be a delay in the shifting from pre-lay to layer feeds, and if you do that, you will have problems with your eggshell quality. More importantly, you have to synchronize your feed allocation increase with the lighting program. So the point here is, by the time that your birds are at peak production, which is around 26 weeks to 35 weeks or 40 weeks, your bird should be weighing at around 1.6 to 1.7 kilos. Why do I say that? Because we want to avoid underweight pullets prior to pick, which is a lot of problem. And of course, we also don't want fat hens prior to pick, although majority of the cases for pullets will be more on the underweight side. Then of course, you have to check your strain management guide for correct body weight based on age requirement, if you have one. Now, continuing, if and when, however, your birds are going to pick, then I would recommend that you increase your feed allocation based on the hen day. It is not practical for your birds to be feeding 110 grams if your production is only 50 grams. So I have set a certain example of this, although this is not exact, and this applies for conventional houses. If your birds are only producing 50%, then you should be feeding something like 85 to 90 grams only. And if your birds are on peak, then that's the time that you're going to provide the 110 grams based on the strain manual recommendation. Now, it is my observation that if you have climate control system sheds, there will be less feed allocation for your birds. If you ask me why, because there is a tendency for the birds not to consume the feeds needed for maintaining the body temperature to a lower figure, because it's already climate controlled. Now, having been successful as far as reaching your peak production, there will come a time that your hen will eventually reduce their production efficiency. These are post-peak flock. So what do we do? Again, you have to make sure that you shift to the right type of feeds. Prolonging the shifting of feeds to layer 2 or layer 3 will have problems with your egg shell quality. And of course, as the production decreases, you have to reduce your feed allocation based on your hen day. This is an example that if your birds are producing less than 90%, then you have to reduce your feed allocation eventually, And just one warning, or caution: if you are going to reduce your feed allocation, make sure that you have to supplement with calcium. You have to consult with your nutritionist, but as a general rule, if you reduce your feed allocation by 10 grams, you have to supplement with 1 gram per bird per hen per day of limestone. This is the reason why I'm doing this, because a bird on a 90% production will require all these nutrients as far as CP and M is concerned. But if your production is going down, they need less. Otherwise, your birds will get fat. So, ano ba nangyayari pagka masyado tayong mag-overfeed? Then, of course, your return on feed cost will be low. And, of course, tataba yung manok nyo as shown in the picture on the right. And if your birds are fat, they are not efficient layers. They will have reproductive problems. They are prone to heat stroke. And the reason why they are overweight is because there is development of excessive abdominal fat. But the main problem here will be your fatty liver syndrome. This is just a picture of a normal follicular hierarchy. It is said that because your birds are laying eggs every 26 weeks for an efficient hen, you should normally have 6 to 8 follicles at a time. If you have more, because of overstimulation, then you will have problems with double yolk, with prolapse, etc., etc. And then the birds will not be laying efficiently towards the duration of the laying cycle. Fatty liver syndrome is a case wherein there is excessive accumulation of fat in the liver because as in, pag masyado tayo kumain, sobra, wala tayong exercise, yung excess calories will be converted into fat and stored into liver. Now, layers with fatty liver syndrome have reduced egg production efficiency, shortened peak, and probably no peak at all. But the main issue here is the mortality because they will eventually lead to death because of the problem of the fatty liver syndrome. Now, these are just pictures taken by me. This is just to show you the excessive abdominal fat on the left and the hemorrhagic fatty liver syndrome on your right. So these hens are no longer useful and eventually they will die. Now, the third one is you have to maintain your flock uniformity. I would say that the average weight of your birds throughout the laying cycle will be between the range of 1.5 to 1.8 kilos. And then, of course, you have to remove your non-productive birds. This is just to show you in one farm that I have seen. This is a climate control system wherein per cage there are 9 hens. And you can see this is a 60-week-old hen. And you can see that the variation of the weights is very far. We have weights of 1.28, 1.41, 1.46, and also we have body weights of more than 2 kilos. So the flock uniformity for this one is 69%, and the production went down probably starting on the 60th week. Now this is a more ideal. You can see that the flock uniformity ranges from 88 to 90%, although we have cases of 62% because we have oversized birds and undersized birds. So the main issue why I'm showing you this is we want your birds to be in the range of 1.5 to 1.6 up to 1.8 and 1.9 on the average for multi-age flock. And you have to have a flock uniformity of around 80%. That would be very ideal. Now, this is very important. We know for a fact that the feed cost is rising, and I have a client. He was mixing feeds, and his feed cost is 1,000 pesos per bag. So you have a 24 pesos per kilo, or 2.64 centavos per hen. So at 110 grams, you can see here that I was telling him, why don't you use a lower quality feeds? So what he did, he purchased from a local supplier, which is 1,100 or 100 pesos lower per bag. And sabi niya, when we did that, there was a drop in egg production by 3%. And I was saying him, look at this, you're at 80%, your feed cost per egg is 3 pesos and 3 centavos, while at 85% using your expensive feeds, it is more than 310. So logically, we are not producing so much eggs because nahihirapan rin kayo magbenta. So better use a lesser quality feeds at a lower cost, because that will mean that your margin for your selling price will be not that pressured. This is to show you the other operating expenses on top of the feed cost. Of course, this does not include your depreciation of building and depreciation of RDL. But you can see here that the climate control system has a lower operating direct cost than the conventional system. Now, of course, you have to keep your birds healthy. Many farmers are reducing their cost on the medicines. And I would suggest that do not save on the vaccination and other control programs, because it is very expensive to maintain a sick bird over a healthy bird. So don't do that. And of course, this will be my last slide. You have to maintain your ideal conditions. It is my experience, although I don't have the data now, that if you have 2 nipple drinkers per cage, it will perform better, especially during summer. Because remember, 70% of your bird is water and 75% of your egg is water. The picture on your right, you have to provide better ventilation for your birds, because one case, especially during rainy season, not only during summer, I had this case a month ago. The birds was peaking at around 95% at 30 weeks of age, but then there was a drop in egg production by 5% in the next 7 days. And I went to the farm, feed intakes normal, no apparent lesion, no apparent healthy disease affliction. But I noticed upon entrance to the farm that there is a very high humidity, and there is a slight ammonia odor. Their fans are set at 28 degrees centigrade, so I told them, do manual operation, make sure that the fans are working despite at 25 degrees. And you know what? After 1 week, the production went down to 95%. So, in summary, I would like to say that it is very important for us to adjust during these challenging times. And the tips that I have shown you will probably be applicable all year round. So, in closing, I'd like you to remember these words as a guide for you during these COVID times. According to Stephen Covey, if we keep doing what we're doing, we're going to keep getting what we're getting. And of course, according to Elizabeth Edwards, in times of COVID, resiliency is just accepting your new reality, even if it's less good than the one you had before. With that, thank you very much and have a good day.
Thank you very much, Dr. Roland. The second paper to be presented for this afternoon's plenary session is Salmonella in Poultry Production.
Our next speaker earned his degree in veterinary medicine at the University of the Philippines in Los Baños, Laguna, and doctorate degree in Osaka Prefecture University in Sakai, Osaka, Japan. He attended PVMA conventions in 2018 and 2019, and now currently working as assistant professor in the University of the Philippines, Los Baños, Laguna, to talk about an important food safety risk obtained associated with poultry products. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome PCPP's newest member and will definitely be a key fixture of PCPP's technical sessions. Let us all welcome Dr. Sherwin I. Camba.
Good day, everyone. Before I begin, I would like to thank the Philippine College of Poultry Practitioners for giving me the opportunity to present in this year's Poultry School Online. The title of my presentation is Salmonella in Poultry Production. For the introduction, Salmonella is a gram-negative facultative rod-shaped bacteria which is under the family Enterobacteriaceae. And as we all know, E. coli, which is another important bacterial pathogen in poultry, is under this family. As for Salmonella, it consists of two species. You have Salmonella bongori and Salmonella enterica. Okay, for Salmonella enterica, it is further divided into subspecies. And for this presentation, we're going to focus on Salmonella enterica subspecies enterica. It is because it is further classified into serotypes based on the Kaufman-White-Lemonor scheme. And in this serotyping method, we determine the O somatic antigen, or the body of the bacteria, and the H antigen, or the flagellar antigen, or the tail of the bacteria, using various antisera. And serotyping is an important tool for the epidemiological investigation related to Salmonella-induced foodborne diseases outbreaks in humans. And in recent years, despite with the rise of the next generation sequencing and also the genomic molecular typing tools, Salmonella serotyping remained to be the gold standard. And this table shows how we determine the serotype of each Salmonella enterica isolates. As for the disease in chicken, Salmonella can be classified into fall typhoid and the paratyphoid. For fall typhoid, it is more causes disease in chicks, particularly in young birds, and two serotypes are involved. You have Salmonella enterica polorum and Salmonella enterica gallinarum. Okay, for Salmonella polorum, it causes white diarrhea in young chicks. And for Salmonella gallinarum, it causes yellowish diarrhea not just in young birds, but also in older birds. And take note, these two serotypes are host-specific, meaning they are only found in chickens. On the other hand, paratyphoid Salmonella consists of more than 2,500 serotypes, and 10% of those are found in poultry. And one important feature of paratyphoid Salmonella is that almost all of these are zoonotic, meaning humans can be infected from the birds. That's why we need to be aware with this paratyphoid Salmonella. Another important characteristic of paratyphoid Salmonella in poultry is that for those infected birds, there are no clinical signs being manifested. And in addition, there are no changes in the production performance. For instance, in layers, the egg production, in broilers, the body weight, the FCR, and in breeders, hatchability and fertility rates. That's why it's quite challenging for this paratyphoid Salmonella. And in those infected flocks, low number of birds are detected when we do testing. That's why diagnosis is quite challenging. And lastly, in terms of infected birds, it would really depend on the health status, no? Particularly if the birds are stressed, no? They shed the bacteria into the environment. Okay, as for the distribution of Salmonella, it is found worldwide and mostly related to animal husbandry practices, such as poultry, swine, and dairy and beef production practices. It is also found in wild reservoir and also in reptiles. As for the distribution of serotypes, it really depends on the geographic location. I mentioned earlier about the zoonotic potential of paratyphoid Salmonella, and it is one of the major foodborne pathogens of public health concern. And according to CDC, it is estimated that 1.4 million cases of Salmonella are reported in the US every year. And worldwide, it is around 1.3 billion. Okay? As for the food sources that are associated with Salmonella outbreaks in humans, and again, according to the CDC, almost half are from poultry and eggs. And as you can see in this graph, the incidence rate of Salmonella infection in humans, no, in the United States from 1970 to 2016, no, this 50-year data shows the increasing rate of Salmonella infections, no, the orange line, no, from 1970 to 1985, and suddenly decreased and became plateaued, no, during the last 30 years. And I'd like to point out that during the increase in infection in humans during the 1980s, Salmonella typhimurium became the most prevalent Salmonella serotype. However, due to the increase in poultry production, the poultry industry is expanding and growing due to the demands of the consumer. Another serotype has emerged, no, during the last years of 1980s, early 1990s, and that is Salmonella enteritidis. You can see the violet line, and because of that, epidemiologists have associated this rise in Salmonella enteritidis infection in humans to the consumption of poultry and egg products. And with that, the federal government of the United States initiated several Salmonella control programs in the poultry industry. For instance, in the Pennsylvania, they started the Salmonella enteritidis pilot project, wherein they recruited various volunteer layer farms. No? They submitted samples such as eggs, environmental samples, rodent samples to be tested for Salmonella. And they found out that very high prevalence of Salmonella enteritidis was found. And because of that, biosecurity, improved cleaning and disinfection, rodent control program, and lastly, Salmonella enteritidis vaccination of chickens was implemented during the 1990s. And as you can see, due to the efforts of the industry, they were able to mitigate the increase of Salmonella enteritidis in humans. However, during the last 10 years, other Salmonella serotypes have emerged, no, such as Salmonella infantis, Salmonella montevideo, brain rot, which is member of the Salmonella group C, and others such as Salmonella Kentucky and Hindelburg. That's why surveillance of Salmonella serotypes is very important, not just in humans, but also in poultry. How about the food poisoning cases in the Philippines? This study is from Anzanza in 2019, wherein the cases from 2005 to 2018, and they found out that Salmonella, particularly Salmonella enteritidis, were the most common cause of food poisoning. As for the distribution of Salmonella cases, number one is Metro Manila, followed by Luzon, Visayas, and lastly Mindanao. Okay? And they tested mostly, or they were able to isolate Salmonella from blood and the stool samples. No? As for the frequency of different Salmonella serotypes isolates from humans in the Philippines, in another study, they found out that Salmonella enteritidis and Salmonella typhimurium were the most common serotypes that were isolated, similar to the US, similar to Europe and Asia. However, you can see that other Salmonella serotypes were also isolated, and most of these serotypes are from serogroup C. And one important findings of this study is that there is an evidence of multi-drug resistant Salmonella in humans. Okay? And as you can see in the bar graph, Salmonella enteritidis and Salmonella typhimurium isolates were found to be resistant to ampicillin, chloramphenicol, TMPS, and others. That's why continuous surveillance of Salmonella isolates from humans, poultry, and other livestock farms, in order to detect these multi-drug resistant Salmonella strains. Okay, in the poultry farm, once Salmonella is established, it is very hard to eliminate from a flock. Okay, after introduction, it spreads throughout the house. It may take months or even years. As for the medication, antibiotic treatments are of little value due to the persistent reinfection of the birds, leading to the development of resistance. And one way to eliminate Salmonella is to get rid of the infected breeders, those parent stocks or grandparent stocks. Okay, what are the implications of Salmonella presence in poultry, particularly in poultry products such as meat and eggs? Aside from food safety concern, the potential economic loss is possible, such as product recalls. In the US and Europe, they are quite strict with recalls and fines. As for the bad publicity, via the social media is one powerful tool to provide information to our consumer. And that's why, as food producers, we need to aware of this risk. And lastly, for export limitation, if we want to become an exporter of poultry products to other countries, these countries have quite a strict regulation with regards to Salmonella in poultry. I mentioned earlier that there are more than 2,500 Salmonella serotypes, and not all of them are the same. Some are heat tolerant. Okay, some serotypes are present only in the intestine. Okay, there are serotypes, for example, Salmonella enteritidis and typhimurium, can invade the internal organs of its host, such as liver, spleen. Some Salmonella serotypes can survive in the dry environments for longer periods of time. And there are some that can survive in some disinfectants. And because of that, prevention, reduction, and elimination strategies to prevent Salmonella is quite different, depending on the farm. As for the sources and reservoir of Salmonella in poultry farms, I highlighted the most common sources. As you can see, infected chicks from the infected breeders. These chicks can also be infected in the contaminated hatcheries. Okay, in the farm, vectors such as rodents are the most common source of Salmonella in the poultry farm, and also feeds, especially those who are using animal protein-based ingredients such as meat and bone meal. It is known source of Salmonella. Okay, especially during the handling of the feed ingredients, transmission or contamination of Salmonella is possible. Others, such as the humans, water, litter, vehicles, fomites, and insects, are potential carriers of Salmonella in the farm. Okay, this slide shows the vertical transmission of Salmonella in poultry. And I mentioned earlier about Salmonella enteritidis. This serotype can invade the internal organs of the chicken, not just the intestine. And what's special with this serotype is it can also invade the oviduct and colonize the uterus part. And because of that, the infected hen will produce the contaminated hatching egg. And later on, will produce the infected chicks that will eventually spread the bacteria to the farm environment. As for the horizontal transmission, and as you can see in this slide, aside from the infected chick or chicken, other vector sources such as rodent can also be the source of salmonella infection, and also the feeds. Okay? Mostly direct and indirect. This slide shows the effect of rodent infestation in a poultry farm. In our previous publication in Japan, we monitored the presence of salmonella from 2008 to 2017 in a layer farm that is vaccinating against Salmonella enteritidis. Okay? And as you can see in the graph, from 2008, there is an evidence of Salmonella enteritidis contamination. But due to SE vaccination of the farm, the farm managed to reduce and eliminate Salmonella enteritidis throughout the years. However, due to the presence of rodents which carries various serotypes of Salmonella such as infantis, Salmonella Potsdam, you'll see that these serotypes in rodents were seen in the environmental swab samples. And that's why we can say that despite having SE vaccination in birds, there's still possibility of being infected by other Salmonella serotypes. Okay, as for the Salmonella infection in poultry, it is usually thought to be spread by fecal-oral route. Okay, after infection, invasion, and colonization of intestine, particularly in cecum. However, according to Baskerville, infection in poultry houses may also be spread by airborne droplets or dust particles carrying salmonella. Not just salmonella, but other poultry pathogens as well. Environmental conditions, including poultry housing system, influence opportunities for salmonella introduction, transmission, and persistent influx. Okay, as you can see in this picture, the accumulation of dust in the roof of the layer farm, it is a risk factor for the birds to become infected, not just by salmonella. Okay, we conducted a trial wherein we compared different salmonella serotypes from serogroup C and then compared it to Salmonella enteritidis. We did intratracheal infection of experimental chicks, and we observed its presence in the internal organs such as the lungs, heart, liver, spleen, and the cecum or the intestine, okay, for 1 to 6 days. And based on the results, at day 1 post-infection, after intratracheal infection or respiratory infection, we were able to isolate all salmonella in the lungs from day 1. And it persisted up to 6 days. And then 2 to 3 days post-infection, we were able to isolate all salmonellas in the cecum or the intestine, and also persisted until 6 days. And what's interesting is that we were able to isolate Salmonella enteritidis in the internal organs, such as heart, liver, spleen, and kidney. However, no isolation was found in Salmonella Potsdam, Bandaka, and infantis. And based on our data, we can say that indeed these Salmonella serotypes are not the same. They are different. Okay? As for the environmental stress, it can facilitate the transmission of bacteria between birds and also increase the shedding of salmonella in the environment. Okay? And as you can see in this picture, as a farmer, as a veterinarian, we need to be aware in the farm, what are the potential nest area for rodents. As you can see on the left upper portion of the slide, you'll see an old cage system in layer farm. And as you can see, inside the cage, you'll see the air dryer. Okay? This air dryer serves as a nest for rodents. And on the right side, you'll see the manure belt. This also serves as potential nesting area of the rodents. That's why we need to have a sharp eye when checking on these potential spots. Okay? In summary, Salmonella enteritidis and Typhimurium remained as the most important serotypes that causes foodborne disease in humans, not just in the Philippines, but also worldwide. Okay? And we need to take note that other Salmonella stereotypes could possibly emerge. No? And as for the levels of indoor dust in poultry houses, it could pose risk for both workers and the bird health. And lastly, Salmonella control program should be holistic. What do I mean by that? The farm should have a Salmonella monitoring program. You need to test the chick source, the hatchery, the poultry farm, from the environment, the feeds, and lastly, the poultry products. As for the management, right provision of ventilation, temperature, moisture control should be conducted. And cleaning and disinfection, rodent control must be implemented properly. And as for Salmonella vaccination, it really depends on the farm. They can give live or killed, depending on their preference. And lastly, auditing. Auditing such as hazard analysis, critical control point, is a very valuable tool to check whether our Salmonella control program is successful or not. And with that, lastly, there are no magic bullets that are available to solve Salmonella problems. With the right knowledge, good analysis, and methods, problems can be prevented. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask. Thank you very much.
The third paper to be presented for this afternoon's broiler session is Digitalization is the next stage of optimization. Keeping an eye on your poultry business with big data.
Our speaker earned his degree in veterinary science and master's degree in poultry science from the University of Agricultural Sciences, College of Veterinary Medicine in Bangalore, India. He completed his doctorate degree in 2009 from the University of Guelph Animal and Poultry Science Department in Canada. Dr. Girish joined Evonik Animal Nutrition in Singapore in 2010, and since 2013, he is leading the technical team of Evonik Animal Nutrition as Senior Director of Nutrition and Technical Services and heading Evonik Precision Livestock Farming in Asia Pacific South region. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dr. Girish Chanarayapatna.
Good day to everyone. My name is Girish Chanarayapatna, Head of Technical Services at Evonik Animal Nutrition, Singapore. I'm happy to be part of this association meeting and glad to share our views on digitalization of poultry value chain as the next stage of optimization in poultry business. Let's look into the current megatrends which are influencing the landscape of livestock industry. In addition to population growth, we see health and welfare, food quality, digitalization and connectivity, and of course, sustainability as the major megatrends in our food systems. Consumers have become more health conscious and expect supply chain transparency. They want to know where their food comes from and whether the animals were treated well. Not only that, consumers have become more sensitive on the use of AGPs in their food systems and also demand for AGPs free high quality meat production. As the natural resources become depleted, we believe that we will have to rely on science to produce enough food, while at the same time protecting the natural resources we have left with. Thus, sustainability on the poultry production value chain will be one of the key drivers in the future. Now coming to some of the emerging technologies which are supporting the poultry industry, I would say. Artificial intelligence, cloud computing, digital technologies such as big data, seamless connectivity offers real potential for the food production sector to improve its efficiency and bottom line. In addition, these technologies are helping to build new business models, including sales channels and interfaces between customers to better serve the needs of the customers and also customers on the animal protein value chain. Now let's look into the complexity in poultry production process. When we look into the broiler meat production process, it starts with grandparent stock, and as we move on this value chain, it will end in the final product or the processing. Of course, we know this is a biological process, which is a complex chain process influenced by several factors, and a lot of relevant data related to the production process are generated in the environment. Environment, in its broad sense, not only limited to the climatic conditions, this also means that data coming from feed production process, the veterinary inputs, housing and equipment being used, breed characteristics, and also of its origin. So then what is the value of data? Yes, we are talking about the poultry production value chain and also the data being generated on the value chain. Yeah? Just looking into the data by itself has really no value. As we know, data is raw and unprocessed facts that we capture according to some standards. Here it really don't create any value to the producers until this data is moved along the processing of the data to create business impact, basically. Yeah. Here the data, as I just mentioned, is raw and unprocessed fact that we capture according to some standards, which has no value. While this has to be converted into information, here the information is the data that is processed, aggregated, and organized into a more friendly way, which only creates a general value. However, this information has to be converted to insight. Here, insight is basically the ability to synthesize knowledge in order to obtain a deep understanding of a problem, and is basically gained by analyzing the information to understand the background of a particular situation and draw conclusions. As we gain knowledge, we begin to make sense of things and draw conclusion between different pieces of information, so that from data we are able to convert that into a pattern, and also this pattern to some kind of recognition, to predictive analytics to completely unlock the value of data. Based on our interactions and discussions with the key stakeholders on the poultry production value chain, here starting from genetics until, let's say, the retail and finances, we have discussed several factors related to data and data management, and these stakeholders have expressed specific pain points or the key challenges which are related to the data. Just to mention a few, for example, in the pain points, large data quantities in a variety of formats leading to lack of insights from data, or lack of data itself, variety in data formats, and non-scalable data sharing agreements. These stakeholders also have shared some of the needs for future or further improvement. Let's say, for example, digitalization, data exchange, and right data management, and also automatic data collection and sharing of data on the value chain, and also more relevant information about the overall production process, specifically about farming, and of course also on self-improvement and collaboration on common goals along the value chain. So in order to overcome these pain points and also to support the needs of the stakeholders along the poultry production value chain, an ideal digital solution to address the needs of poultry production should encompass the following 3 steps. Here I would like to mention, let's say, the best results in 3 steps, starting from monitoring the livestock production, I would say, as the first step. The second step would be predicting a livestock product as the second. And the third one would be plan of food product. Looking into the first point, monitoring livestock production, the advantages of going digital are clear. Using sensors in the poultry facilities allow poultry producers to collect a variety of live data 24 hours a day, every day of the years, automatically or manually. It also means that you can compare it to the historical data, allowing poultry producers to identify trends and any emerging long-term issues. Here, a cloud-based software solution can enable producers to always supervise the flocks anytime, anywhere. Then coming to the second point, that is predict livestock product based on, let's say, the available data at the farm level and the big database of this digital solution. This software would be able to detect deviating patterns and accurately predict future performance of your birds, for example, body weight or egg production. This allows also to control the performance according to the long-term strategy and also achieve the goals of poultry producers. Point number 3, planning of food product. As we know, the poultry meat and egg market is a customer-based production chain. The specific needs and requirements of customers regarding the food products in terms of size, weight, and quality are driving the overall production. This software will enable to move from accurate predictions to optimal planning. Smart algorithms can be used to do the thinking and help poultry producers deliver the right product at the right time. Overall, a software or a digital solution should be based on big data, Internet of Things, and biostatistics, which is able to monitor, predict, and plan the poultry production processes and can potentially be able to lower the inefficiencies, process cost, and also increase the profits. Here I would like to highlight one point. Yes, we are talking about digital solution. It's not just an IT tool. The digital solution, what we should look into is basically it should take an animal-centric approach. As we know, the biological processes are a complex biological activities along the value chain, and the software solution or a digital solution should focus on the biological processes in relation to the environment. Digital solutions to manage the data along the value chain of poultry production, or I can also say a poultry production software, should be based on different levels of knowledge along the overall production. I would say animal science knowledge, nutritional knowledge, health expertise, intelligent self-learning algorithms, and of course big data and biostatistics. Taking an animal-centric approach, the digital solution system should, with flock as the basis. As we know, as we bring the chicks to the farm, this is the start of the flock. As we do, flock information should include simple and of course trackable information, and should link the origin, let's say rearing parent stock or grandparent stock, where it is coming from, and also the other factors which can influence the performances, let's say the feed and hatchery, and of course many other factors. In addition to the flock information, production information, origin, health status, destination, contracts, and suppliers, all this information should be integrated into each of these flocks so that the system is able to support the overall operations at the farm level. Looking into the solutions, what this software solution or this digital solution can offer, it should be able to cover many aspects of the overall poultry production process. And to mention some of these solutions along the value chain which can support the poultry operations, as you can see from this slide, flock management and early warning system, integrated health management, customized reporting, quality control system enabling work planning, integrated process analytics, predictive feedstock management, production planning, predictive egg flow, and also predictive optimized slaughter planning. When we talk about farm management or flock management starts with the creation of the flock and measuring the relevant parameters on a daily basis so as to manage the flock efficiently while knowing the pain points and of course overcoming these pain points with continuous monitoring of those parameters and the influence of the factors, for example, the temperature, humidity, and other factors. I'm going to highlight the key elements of the early warning system in the coming slide. But talking about the flock management, here flock management also allows the comparison of parameter, for example, one or two or even multiple flocks, both current or historical flocks, and should be able to compare with the standard. Coming to the integrated health, management, here the software solution is able to configure the vaccination schemes to plan all necessary vaccinations for the flock and is able to create treatment lists for improved treatment planning and documentation, and also create health logs for better monitoring of all health related actions, and of course serological monitoring and also monitoring of the health of the flocks and also the pathogen monitoring is a key element in the poultry production. Let's say, for example, monitoring of Salmonella, Campylobacter, or even parasitology monitoring, and this should come with the function to attach files and health reports and also, let's say, the necropsy pictures, what we do at the farm level. Then coming to the next point, that is customized reporting. Reports are built based on the requirement of the customers. Reports are fully customizable, should be fully customizable based on set of requirements actually. Then coming to the next point, I would say the quality control system, which is a compliance system. Here we are able to put a lot of activities that are related to the flock actions, I would say, which also includes technical actions, thinning and catching, feed planning and lighting program. Not only the flock activities, but this software solution is able to integrate, and we can also create the work list into the respective flocks and at the respective farms. For example, here what I'm talking about is work list. For example, when the cleaning should happen, when the machine should be checked at the farm level, and many other activities which we can build into the system. Then talking about the integrated process analytics, I'm going to expand a little bit in the next slide. Here I would like to quickly highlight one point. Here the organization of the data is the key for future or further statistical analysis, where we are able to estimate the impact of certain fixed parameters on some of the key performance indicators, where we are able to look into the trends and make better decisions out of these trends for further improvement. Then looking into the predictive feedstock management, here the system is able to predict feedstock trends based on the current feed intake or the feed intake of the flocks which are active, for example. And then coming to the point of production planning, here we are able to set up the flock in function of the requirement of meat, for example, which includes day-old chicks placement as well. If we are talking about the predictive egg flow, here the prediction models are available for efficient egg production planning, and this solution is also enable customers or poultry producers to understand their production output and specifications. Looking into the poultry production software, here we are talking about the data collection technologies. The poultry production software should be flexible enough to collect all the data from whatever way customers are able to input the data into the system. Here I am mentioning a few examples here. The data should be able to manually input into the system using a mobile app, for example. And also it should also integrate the data coming from farm control system or an ERP system automatically. And also it should support the data which is being already collected at the farm level and also stored in the Excel. Here the data can also be transferred into the system manually. And as we know, the usual practice at the farm level is to write the flock chart and also hang it on the walls of the poultry sheds. Here, this digital solution or a poultry production software should have the ability to convert these flock charts digitally and convert those handwritten flock chart into digitalized form, and should be able to integrate those data on the sheet into the system. I mean, in the poultry production, we know every flock is unique. An animal-centric approach, as I mentioned earlier, is the fundamental to support daily poultry production management using big data, biostatistics, and self-learning scientific self-learning algorithms, which we can also call it as artificial intelligence. Here, the system or a digital solution, what we are currently discussing, should be able to generate a smart early warning system to notify the issues or arising problems, to take necessary corrective measures to prevent the losses in production and profits. And also it should be able to do the long-term predictions of the certain KPIs looking into the future performances of the birds. For example, it can be body weight or egg production. And this long-term prediction should allow the poultry producers to control the performances according to the long-term strategy and also achieve the production goals. Here we are talking about some of the early warning system or smart, I can also say it as smart early warning system, in order to notify those issues at the farm level. As you can see from this slide, they have highlighted these some of these KPIs. For example, the feed intake and also the water intake, which are in red. Here, the system is able to alert the producers if they are if there are any deviation from norm or standard based on the acceptable variation, which should be which is visually noticed on this dashboard. Here, as you can see, it is creating the warning because it is out of threshold, which is deviating from the standard, and this system is able to tell the poultry producer there is something going wrong at the farm level, so that they can attend to these issues at the farm level. As I mentioned earlier, the long-term predictions are very useful for the producers in order to achieve their long-term strategy and also goals. Here, I would like to highlight some certain or a few key performance indicators in the broiler production. For example, broiler breeders rating, body weight is one of the KPIs. In case of broiler breeders, hen day production and hatchability are the major KPIs. And of course, in case of broiler, body weight and feed intake are of importance to the poultry producers. As I mentioned earlier, here our long-term predictions should be able to accurately predict the future performance of the flock and should allow poultry producers to control the performance in order to achieve long-term strategy and also the production goals. Just to show few examples how this metadata set is able to detect or evaluate, let's say, some of these feeding schemes or the impact of genetics on the performance of the broilers or layers. Here, I would like to highlight two examples. One is related to the broiler. Here, there are 4 feeding schemes, and also these 4 feeding schemes are looking into the actual broiler performances over time. As you can see, there is a significant impact or a significant effect of feeding scheme A over others. Yeah, here it is clearly showing the feeding scheme A has put on weight in the first week, for example, which is never lost, which is again carried over to at least to end of the flock, as you can also see from the left side of this graph. So here we are able to, I'm just showing some of these examples. Any other parameters can be checked looking into different fixed parameters. Here now I am showing one example in case of layers. Here we are looking into the impact of different feed types and also different lines of layers. Here in this study, as you can see, there was no significant effect of the feed formulation on the egg weight. Here, egg weight, the egg weight was the parameter what we were looking on the layer side. However, there was main effects of genetics and housing on the egg weight, which we can also see from this graph. Let's look into a little bit on the broiler meat. Broiler chicken supply into the slaughterhouses. Traditionally, as we know, the poultry supply chain management has been in the forward direction, where the farm produces to supply the market, and also there are scenarios where the farm could under or overproduce for the market, which has a big impact on the prices. In a customer-based broiler production chain, it is very important that the right products, the correct numbers, and also required quality are delivered on time and at an acceptable cost. Yeah. In order to achieve that, the predictive optimized broiler prawning solution optimizes the broiler supply in every poultry concepts to the processing plant. Here, the predictive optimized broiler planning is able to meet the demand, or it raises the chances of meeting the demand more precisely based on our predictions, and also to achieve the supply security. And it will also make sure that there are always enough broilers to keep the slaughtery running efficiently. It will also tackle the transparency issues with facilitated management of the food chain information. For example, as we discussed earlier, where the treatment lists or the health logs or the monitoring of the health parameters can be integrated into the system. Here we are able to pull out those information of the respective flock in order to bring more transparency and also to manage or to tackle the transparency issues, I would say. And also this predictive optimized broiler planning also decreases the cost through accurate planning, taking into account of broiler growing, processing, as well as the transportation. All in all, predictive optimized broiler planning will support poultry producers in meeting demand, achieving supply security, bringing transparency of the operations, and also supporting cost management. This is how the information is gathered on the dashboard of this optimized broiler planning. Here I'm showing the display of these planning using cards. Here we are able to visualize the demand and supply, and also the number of houses, and also the weight of respective birds in those houses. Considering the supply and demand and also the performance of the flocks, we are able to get an optimized slaughter planning. This is just a visual display of this slaughter planning. This here I'm showing using cards. This can also be visualized in a graphical manner. I mean, there is no difference between the previous one and this one. However, it will also show different way of looking into the supply and also the demand of broilers for the market, where it will also allow to edit the planning by moving the cards as I showed it in the previous slide. Looking into the value creation of the poultry production value chain, we are talking about a digital solution with several solutions and modules where it can support different customer segments along the value chain. Let's say the integrators, veterinarians, and consultants, slaughterhouse, feed mill, or premixer, for example. Here it is not only supporting the different customer segments, but it's also supporting different stakeholders along the value chain. As you can see in this slide, for example, livestock production department, consultants or veterinarians, or general managers, or technical and sales support, for example. As you can see, the key benefits here, I'm not going to read all of this, just to mention for an integrator, improved production planning, and also improved flock uniformity as major benefits. In case of veterinarians or consultant, improved health and health management, also improved biosecurity. For the slaughterhouse, reduced condemned birds, And for the feed mill or the premix companies, increased resource optimization and also improved feed mill management. I mean, just to highlight some of these, of course, there are other benefits as I have shown it in this slide. All in all, the digital solution should be able to create value along the poultry value chain. As you can see, some of the benefits, as I highlighted in this slide, this digital solution or a poultry production software should support the monitoring the livestock production 24/7, and it should be able to support the overall poultry production process by short-term and long-term predictions of the key performance indicators and increased uniformity in the poultry production, documentation of medication and welfare, and also consolidation of data across all compatible sources, and at the end, reduce the costs and inefficiencies and thus improving the profits. Yeah. So poultry producers should look into poultry production software which can support on the value chain, bringing these benefits to increase their profitability overall. So with this, I would like to thank the organization for giving us this opportunity, and thanks for listening. And if there are any questions, we are happy to address. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Dr. Chanaraya Patna. The fourth paper to be presented for this afternoon's plenary is the story of RDF amidst the challenges.
Our last speaker for this afternoon's plenary session, and definitely not the least, earned his degree in veterinary medicine at the University of the Philippines in Diliman and master's degree in entrepreneurship at the Asian Institute of Management in Makati City. He was an instructor at the College of Veterinary Medicine, University of the Philippines in Diliman from 1983 to 1985, and Chief Executive Officer of RDF Feed, Livestock, and Foods Incorporated from 1988 up to the present. He served as director of the Pampanga Chamber of Commerce, Pampanga Chapter from 2017 up to the present. Past president of the Philippine Veterinary Medical Association and recipient of various awards as a professional. His company, RDF Feed, Livestock, and Foods, was awarded as 2017 Gawad Kaagapay Agri-Based Category Outstanding Large Corporation 2, first place by the Land Bank of the Philippines. In the same year, at the Meralco Business Luminary Awards, RDF was awarded the Biz Luminary. Ladies and gentlemen, lend our ears as the man behind RDF and Fresh Options share his story and learn important lessons to ensure business resiliency. Please welcome Dr. Robert H. Law.
Fresh morning, this is how we greet our customers in our stores. So I was invited by the PCPP to speak about market resiliency. I'll be speaking in the point of view of RDF. So the title of my presentation is The Story of RDF Amid Challenges. So, of course, market resiliency, we'll be tackling not only the 4 Ps, but 6 Ps as our framework for this market resiliency. So aside from these 6 Ps, we're also going to talk about some science and innovation technologies that are present now or available to us. So ito, ang umpisa namin, we started during 1988 as a conventional housing we're under the contract of an integrator. So ganito ang housing namin during the late 1980s. And yung mga challenges from 1988 to 2021, of course, everybody knows about Pinatubo. So nangyari yan na 1991, and we have also challenges with the lahar. So our farm really is hit by lahar during the 1993, and another one is during the 1999 because of another typhoon. There is what we call a remobilized lahar. No? So tinamaan ang dalawang farm namin, and we're prepared for that. Kasi after the Pinatubo eruption, so we base our two farms are in the direct path of the lahar. So we already prepared for that. No? So ayan, naka-prepared kami. Then, during the 1997s, alam pa din ng marami about the Asian crisis. So, sinabayan pa ng Asian crisis, yung smuggled, no? Rampant smuggling of leg quarters in the duty stores, no? Dito sa mga Clark and Subic Bay. Dito nag-start ang ubra. Okay, so nag-form ang ubra because of that. Kasi talaga nag-plummet ang prices ng poultry. Imagine at that time, I know, I lost almost 30 million in a single month. No? So talagang sabi ko, patay na ako, close shop na ako talaga. Luckily, with the formation of the ubra, nag-unite mga broiler growers, commercial growers, and we are able to lobby with then Secretary Angara, and pinakinggan kami, and he was able to stop the rampant smuggling. Okay, then siguro may mga crisis na mga diseases, you know, aside from the very virulent NCD, we also have the AI problem, and also during the late 2090s, we have the ASF in piggery, and in early 2020, meron namang COVID pandemic. So ito mga challenges na encounter natin. Okay, so we begin with RDF, kung anong model namin. Okay, so itong model namin, we're vertically integrated. So siguro naging resilient kami as a company because all the process ay halos kami ang nag-ooperate from feed mill up to retail and restaurant. So nandiyan yung broiler and swine farms namin. We have a contracted dressing plant for our sole use. Then we have our own slaughterhouse for our piggery. Then we have a central depot wherein we further process our products. Even logistic, we have our own delivery trucks to deliver the products to our retail stores and restaurants. Okay, so ito ang model namin sa RDF. And most of the chicken or broiler growers have this type of supply chain. So they have either they buy feeds from the commercial feed mill, or they produce their own feeds, and either they have their PS stocks where they buy the GPs from the PS stocks, and either they just buy the chicks from the hatcheries, from commercial hatcheries, and grow them in their farms. So most of the growers have this model na they sell directly to viajeros. I think maybe 80 to 90% of our commercial broilers sell directly to the viajeros and middleman. And some went further, have their own processing plant, rendering, further processing. Okay, so we go to the 6 piece now na mentioned kanina. So the 6 piece, the first one is about price. So tingnan natin ano mga factors nag-affect ng price ng farm gate prices. So pina-study ko dito sa isang data mining company, what are the reasons or factors affecting price. So nakita natin mas stable ang retail prices than farm gate price. Nakita nyo medyo smooth ang retail price. Ang nakita niyo ang farm gate price really mas may mga valleys at saka mga hills, no? So yan. So ito lumabas based on the Philippine Statistics Authority data and from Dettelman, no? So ito mga factors like yung first column natin, it pertains to mga farm gate prices natin. What are the factors that might affect the farm gate price? So nakita natin very poor ang association niya sa mga, like for example, the major ingredients natin, corn and soya, nasa baba, no? And DOC, there's a strong correlation, pero the correlation is more of the retail, the farm gate price dictates the price of the day-old chicks, no? And it seems na mahina ang correlation ng import volume. So it does not say na kung malaki ang import volume, it will affect the farm gate price. Even the retail price, no? Kaya nakita natin the previous slide, wala talagang really, nakita natin very straight ang retail price, pero ang farm gate price talaga na may mga valleys and hills, no? So talagang ang correlation lang very strongly ay ang price of DOC for the other way around, the farm gate dictates the price of the DOC. So narito pinakita rin mga ibang relation, no? So mahina talagang relationship ng mga iba, and even the import price will have more effect on the retail price than the farm gate price. And the majority of the imports are MDM products. Okay? So ito historically, ginawa namin ng 3 years historical, 10 years pala, historical data natin. So this graph shows us the agreement between Philippines and WTO, which expired during the June 2012. So during June 2012, no, because of the concession na patungan ng taripa ang rice, no. So ang concession na kuha ng WTO is to lower tariff rates of MDM products. So instead of 40%, naging 5%. So nakita nyo, after the solid line, ay biglang nag-upsurge ang importation of MDM. And so dito, tuloy-tuloy ang pag-increase ng MDM. In 2019, the rice tariffication law was passed. So may concession na naman. So instead only 5%, di ba? Remember 2012, naging 5% na lang ang tariff ng MDM. Comes 2019, ay binalik sa 40%, so concession. Pero very short lang pala. During that period, it's only less than 3 months, March 5 to June, ang taas ng taripa. So after June 16, binalik na lang sa 5%. So imagine yung solid line again, na pinapakita nila na during the period na inakyat ng 40%, parang wala namang pagbabago. There's still some increase, hindi ganyan ka-steep. So remember, after June 16, bigla na lang nagtaas ang import ng MDM products because of the lower tariff ng MDM products. Okay, dito naman pinapakita ang relationship, no, ng chicken price with other meat products dahil sa ASF. So nakita niyo naman yung upper line, ayan ang prices ng beef. The second line is pertains to the price of the pork. So parang sumasabay lang yung chicken price sa pork, no? Because na-divert ang mga consumption ng pork to chicken. And nakita natin, maski na ang mataas na ang retail price, yung farm gate price naman sa the lower line ay halos pantay lang. Okay, ito yung anong nangyari because of the high prices na pork, ang meat na contribute na napakalaking effect sa inflation natin. So remember, no, umabot pa tayo ng mga 5% inflation. So ang main contributor dito ay meat products in 19.6%. So that's why the government want to lessen the effect of inflation, kaya nag-allowed sila maraming importation. And in fact, in pork products, ni-remove nila ang MAF from, I think, from 40 to 5% lang. So, anong pointers natin sa price, no? As I've shown, yung relationship, hindi masyado talaga nag-affect ang volume ng import sa price ng farm gate prices. And it shows that the raw materials ay hindi talaga nag-affect. So, in fact, there's a negative relation between the prices of raw materials and the price of our farm gate prices of our products. Okay, so we go to the next P. So process. So ito ay bagong P, no, among the 4 P's natin. Many new technologies available, no. So dito in RDF, we adopt a lot of technologies. We adopt a lot of app or programs na para maging mas efficient ang aming production, even up to the in our feed mill. We have all the programs, apps na available to make it more efficient and may traceability ang aming products. Later on, I'll talk about the capture of the market insights using these programs, no, the big data. So dito ang aming farm when we started late 1980s to maybe to late 1990s, conventional housing kami. Okay? So nag-evolve kami and we keep on improving our CCS or climate control system. So as the moment we have Model 6 na. So ito na sa picture is Model 3 lang tong amin CCS housing. So we keep on changing. Kung may mga bagong technology available, talagang nag-adapt kami. So dito, we have the integrated control system. So alam niyo na ito na temperature and humidity sensors ay nagko-control natin. Instead of using papyrus type of cooling pots, no, alam natin na maraming sediments na nag-impede ng proper flow of water in our cooling pots. That's why we shift to plastic cooling pots, no? At saka mas durable ang plastic than using this papyrus, no? At saka mas maganda ng flow ng water. It's very important you have a good flow of water in your cooling pots para mas efficient ang cooling system. And instead of one fixed speed sa tunnel vents, tunnel fans, we now use variable speeds in our tunnel fans. Ito, makita nyo yung manure conveyor. Alam natin nung nag-CCS climate control system tayo, we encountered a big problem, fly control. Kasi unlike the conventional, we can do a lot of things. We can put chemicals in our manure kasi open housing naman yan. We can collect the manure. Pero when it comes to climate control, gusto natin magandang flow ng vent, kaya mababaw na yung floor to ground. So it's impossible to collect manure, and because of the automatic water system, so may tendency talaga na nababasa ang ating mga manure, and ito ay a very perfect ground, a breeding ground for flies. Kaya ang dami hatang naka-encounter ng mga complaints from the neighborhood because of the flies. So dito, I'll talk later about the manure conveyor system in our 6th model. So compare natin efficiency na conventional with our 3rd model kasi mas marami ang 3rd model namin, and we have the new model, yung 6th model namin ng control climate system. Average live weight is dictated by the market, no? Kaya it's almost the same, nasa 1.97. The difference between the FCR, nakita natin ang FCR using conventional housing. Ito, real-time, no? Sabay-sabay. We use the median performance. We don't use the outliers, the best or the worst performance. We use the median. And conventional has an FCR of 152, and the 3rd model, an FCR of 1.47, and improved naman 1.45 sa the 6th model or the battery type ng CCS. Okay, despite having bigger birds. And the recovery is very different, no? You can see 96.3 sa conventional, 96.7 sa CCS3 model namin, open tunnel, and yung cage naman ay 97.2. Okay, so yung age nila, nakita nyo, compared to the conventional, the control climate system, ay ma-harvest nyo earlier. So yung broiler performance index ay better sa battery type. And the ADG also improve, or the average daily gain also improve. So ito naman, yung tungkol sa repair, so mas nakakatipid kayo sa repair using the control climate system. So ang cost ng repair sa record namin, median again, 2.68 pesos per bird. And the control system Model 3, the open tunnel, ay 52 centavos. We don't have record pa sa CCS 6 model namin, but we're expecting a higher, maybe double of the CCS 6. Kaso bagong-bago pa lang to, kaya we cannot compare it, no? And yung brooding cost, itong pinakamalaki, no? And in conventional, we're still using heater, rice hulls, paper. Yung conventional namin, it's really wala pa kami CCS3. Then record namin shows, no, it's average, no, using conventional and some CCS3. We spend about 14 centavos per bird sa brooding. But sa CCS6, zero cost na ang brooding. Kita mo, ang laki ng difference ng using the CCS3. And the fly control, as I mentioned earlier, sa conventional, we are able to control the breeding ground for these flies, no, na alis natin mga basang ipot. But in CCS3, that's a problem because lower distance of the floor and ground. Kaya we spend much, na meron na tayong mga cyromycin, we have the fly glue, lot of adulticides to kill these flies. Despite of that, talagang problematic pa rin. But in CCS6, because of the manure collection, no, na may mga auger system to collect the manure, automatically nagbaba na ang cost nito 2.14. And ito naman, ang source namin is the cap buttress, no, about the FCR. So nag-improve to, not only the breed, maybe also the quality of feeds, no, better quality of feeds, better the breed. So sabi nila, in 1980, the FCR to produce a 2.5 kilogram of chicken is 2.4. By 1990, 2.22 na lang. Year 2000, 2.02. Year 2010 is 1.82. Ngayon, nasa 2018, ay 1.54 kilo of feeds to produce 1 kilo of chicken na 2.5 kilogram na weight. So talagang laking improvement because of the technology of the breeds and the feeds. Okay, so it shows dito, no, ang like I said, na yung live weight is more of the market demand, no? So sabihin natin, tignan na natin ang FCR. The bottom line is the FCR. It's really going down. And the second is the average daily gain, which is going up, no? And tong sa right na graph, it shows us the going up of the broiler performance index. So aside from yun sa production namin sa broiler farms namin, and dito naman sa aming processing plant, so we really set and monitor quality standards to make sure that high quality meats are processed and prepared under hygienic condition in our meat cutting and meat processing plant. Talagang in-observe namin, look, we observe na meron pa mga bottom crates, no? So our products does not touch the floors and talagang hygienic, and time to time we check our products. So gusto namin ma-assure. And gusto namin ma-assure na talagang good products ang na-offer namin up to the retail. Kaya hindi namin ina-outsource ang aming trucks or logistics. So we have our own fleet of delivery trucks. Kaya gusto namin ma-assure na talagang walang violation ng aming cold chain delivery system. So even up to the stores, no, hindi kami gumagamit na island freezer or chillers that you can see in most of the supermarkets. Kasi ang problem ng island freezers may naka-expose na part. So kung napuntahan nyo, matitsempohan nyo na yung mga naka-expose parts, nagiging green ang kulay ng mga parts ng chicken na naka-expose. So dahil nga nag-ibang temperature nila, mas expose sila sa bacteria sa air. So ang talagang mababa lang temperature, dapat talaga para walang growth ng bacteria, it should be 4 degrees or lower or up to -10. So kaya kami, in our stores, we use upright chillers. Kaya yung circulation ng air ay na-maintain namin ng optimum product temperature para talagang fresh chilled. So remember, our products are fresh chilled. We are not fresh frozen. So itong nag-differentiate sa product namin. So we also implement the first in, first out system. First to expired, first out system. So we have exclusive partnership with the dressing plant, which is very near our processing plant also. So para may control kami sa mga internal process, hindi kami nag-outsource. So that's the difference between our company and other companies. So pointers are processed. You have to have developed a good products. No? Later on, we'll talk about products. No? And there are a lot of lot of technologies available. So you keep on adopting new technologies. Like for example, itong CCS3, the climate control system, in 3 years, pinalit na namin kaagad kasi we see na mas efficient to. You have to go and observe what other people are doing, other countries are doing. No? So itong last model namin, we went to France and I think to China and observed yung battery type. And we chose this particular company because it's more efficient than the other company. So we go to the next P regarding products. Remember, no, kanina sinasabi ko, fresh chilled products kami, hindi fresh frozen. So frozen meat have longer shelf life and lower price. But tungkol sa sensory and nutritional quality nila, they have a lower or poorer than quality than fresh meats. Kaya gusto namin mag-niche dyan sa fresh chilled. So better sensory and nutritional quality. So gaya sinabi ko earlier, the majority of the import are mechanically deboned meat. So ito talagang cheaper ang mechanically deboned meat pero talagang lower nutritional values than fresh. So most of our imports are mechanically deboned, no? So lower nutritional values than fresh chicken. So nasabi naman dito, most of the imports, 95% are mechanically deboned, chicken leg quarters and chicken cuts. So may ito mga example na products namin sa store, so fresh, and we have some value-added products. Then ito sa mga ibang companies, so we see the other formats. Some are selling roast chicken. Some have shelf-stable products, chicken in pouch. No, talagang we tried. No, it's not really nice products. And canned chicken, we're looking into that. I think there's a Davao company na nakaroon ng canning products na talaga. So we are looking to that aspect. So we are also using data science para ma-extract more insights sa mga customer natin kung anong mga gusto nila. So anong mga products na customer buy together, talagang kung kinukuha namin mga data. So it shows that, for example, no, usually customer buy chicken liver and they also buy chicken gizzard, and yung customer buying chicken gizzard, the pork items and chicken liver, itong mas madalas ang combination natin using the big data and using mga recipe na suggest. We have sort of a recipe na pwede mong kunin sa amin website. So mga easy to prepare meals, no, using ingredients. So nakita natin because of the ASF and ilang poultry ay nagiging ang pinaka-source ng 4 months or 4 months protein na talaga. So we expecting a higher consumption, per capita consumption of chicken than pork. So ngayon mas mataas ang pork than chicken because of the ASF incident. We expecting na by 2025 there will be more people eating chicken than pork. So we go to the products. No? And after yung products namin, you should come out with good products. No, you have to differentiate yourself. No, so kami kaya kami nag-ano kami sa niche, nagni-niche kami sa fresh chilled and fresh frozen. So place, paano namin binebenta? So most of the practice sa industry, they sold it to the biheros and some went further to the wet markets. As you can see, na mas stable ang prices ng retail than farm gate prices. Kami, we sell it through our fresh option meat shops. So we have 3 models. We have the neighborhood, we have the fresh option express na maliliit na stores na 8 hours lang open and only 1 staff there. Then we have a bigger fresh option, na marketplace na may mga condiments and vegetables available because we're into hydroponics din. So we also have entered into the modern trade. So aside from the supermarkets, concessionaire kami na Super 8 and Walter Mart under the brand Fresh Option. We have also our own restaurants, Hot Kitchen and Roberto's. So ngayon, I think late last year, we went into general trade. So ito, we're trying to go into the C to D market, no, sa mga wet markets, mga talipapa, mga neighborhood. So we come out with a wrap-sarap, so mas affordable products na ito. So we're now in the whole Luzon except for Bicol and Mimaropa. So nag-online din kami dahil sa pandemic, so nag-uso ng online. Then ito pa mga ibang ginagawa ng mga ibang companies. They went into fast food, they into lechon manok, some went to export. So, okay. Then talagang you have to seek more places to sell your products. Kaya meron kami general trade and we're going also to modern trade. No? Hindi lang maging concessionaire but to have some products in most of the major supermarkets. So for promotion, ito ang pinakita natin ang meat consumption sa world. No? The Philippines, according to FAO, no? This is a record from FAO and from what global media, na 13.5 lang ang consumption ng per capita of chicken sa Philippines, no? So among the ASEAN countries, of course, Indonesia is lower, no? And Malaysia is quite high because Muslim country yan. But Vietnam, no? Vietnam is a pork eater, but they have a higher chicken consumption. Ang consumption ng Vietnam is about 16.5. So there's a difference of 3 kilos per capita. Kung imagine mo, if we go to the level of Vietnam, kasi halos kapareho natin level ng Vietnam, we're better than Vietnam now. Ay, yung 3 per capita consumption sa 110 million Filipinos, ibig sabihin we need to produce 330 million kilos of chicken. No? So malaki pang ang magagawa natin. Okay? Na kailan natin ma-produce to reach the per capita consumption of Vietnam. So ito mga world, no? Talagang nagulat ako sa records when I studied it. Israel has a consumption of 64 kilos per capita. So kung gagawin natin Israel, we have to produce 50 kilos. So that's about 5 billion kilos of chicken pa kailangan natin. Okay. So yung mga iba kasi sabi, wala nang pag-asang chicken, we have to import, no? Talagang asa na ba tayo sa import? But look at the global companies. They are establishing or set upping their companies here in the Philippines, no? An example dito, the second biggest producer of feeds, New Hope ay narito sa Pilipinas is a Chinese company, Cargill of US. Together with Jollibee, they have the Joy. So they're producing already here in the Philippines. CPF, the Kitchen of the World from Thailand, yung Hub of Malaysia, Growell of Thailand. Nag-establish sila, may nakita sila. Of course, nakita nila na may opportunity pa rito sa broiler production. So kaya narito sila. So we also have a lot of promotion for our chicken products. So we use some influencers like Tato, Chef Tato, and some like that Silueta of Millennial Moms and recipe development for our customers. So we are communicating that we are different. We are fresh chilled chicken. Okay? So itong mga ano. And people, it is important really to develop your people. Kaya dito ang strength ng organization lies in our people. So we really develop our people. Isang mission namin, we encourage and maintain a fun working environment. Kaya we have a lot of activities for our people. Okay. Then we really send our employees to, kasi we really promote from the ranks, but we have to give them the proper tools kaya we send them to study masteral in different colleges and different international seminar and technical trainings. Okay. So, isang strong point namin, we don't invent the wheel. We try to hire a consultant para improve our organization. And we create we call the RDF University, geared towards the development of various core and leadership competency of our employees. So aside from our own people, nagko-community, we share our blessing to the community. So especially sa pandemic, and you have to appoint us for resiliency. You have to trust your people. You have to give information para makaka-decide sila. Without the proper information, hindi sila makaka-decide. So, mga key takeaways, remember, no? Ito ay gusto ko tong quote ni Albert Einstein. Insanity. Doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. So, ito, most of the farmers ay hanggang biyahero lang nila. Sila nagmamarket and they keep on complaining, nahihirapan na sila. Kasi they keep on doing the same and siyempre they will get the same results. No? They have to do different things. No? Para, no? So some nuggets, no? Know what you're doing. You should be very passionate about what you're doing and learn something new every day. No? Hindi lahat alam mo na eh. And trust your people. So hindi talaga, you cannot do everything. Kung gusto mo lumaki, you have to trust your people. You have to equip them with the proper tool. You have to give them the information para maka-move sila, maka-decide sila. And you don't have to reinvent the wheel. No? So nandiyan ang mga consultant, just get them para mapabilis ang improvement. Then don't cry over spilled milk. Ito, nangyari lang sa akin noong 1997, na nagkaroon ng Asian crisis, nagkaroon ng massive smuggling. Kaya, yan, so, na-realize ko, you don't have to cry over spilled milk. Nangyari sa akin, I cried over spilled milk. And remember, life must go on. You have to find ways para ano yung problems. And lastly, be open to change. Kasi talagang inevitable lang talaga may change talaga. Instead of resisting it, kang resisting it, ang daming effort mo na para mag-resist. Just adapt it. Ano maganda, kunin mo. That's what we did with our control climate system. Thank you.
We will now proceed with the open forum. May we call on screen our four speakers. Dr. Renato R. Roland, Dr. Sherwin Kamba, Dr. Giris Chanaraya Patna, Dr. Robert H. Lowe. May we also call our moderator for this afternoon session. Please welcome back Dr. Lina S. Policarpio.
So Dr. Rolian, the first question for you, is midnight feeding for 1 to 2 hours all night or all right when lighting is already full? Example, 4 a.m. to 9 p.m. is already 17 hours. Adding 1 to 2 hours would make it 18 to 19 hours. Then when feeding is corrected, will removing midnight feeding affect the flock routine?
Yes, that's a very good question. In my practice, we normally do 16 hours, and if the feed consumption is below what is required, right, we normally do additional 1 to 2 hours in the middle of the dark period. However, yung question na is kung na-correct na yung feeding deficiency. In my practice, pwede namin siya tanggalin pero very gradual. Hindi mo pwedeng tanggalin siya ng mabilis. So you probably like 15 minutes every 3 days and so forth. And so hanggang maubos yung midnight light allocation.
Thank you, Dr. Rolian, for that practical response. This is the next question is for Dr. Sherwin Kamba. Dr. Sherwin, could you share a procedure on how to produce monoclonal antibody which could be used in zero-grouping Salmonella isolates?
First of all, Dr. Policarpio, I'd like to thank yung organizers ng Poultry School Online, si Dr. Esme San Pedro, Dr. Noel Lom, for the opportunity. And with regards to the question, it is quite challenging to produce yung monoclonal antibodies for the production of ng antisira kasi kailangan gumamit ng mga rabbits. It's quite laborious, and ang ginagawa namin sa lab namin when I was in Japan is bumibili kami ng commercial antisira. May maker ng mga commercial antisira ng mga Salmonella serogroups. And then and also yung sa flagella.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Kamba, for that. Dr. Girish, this next question is for you. What are the questions you ask yourself to link monitoring livestock products to predict livestock products? So I think it's what product you incorporate into the operation and how do you monitor its response?
Sure. I mean, this is a great question. I would say when we are looking into livestock monitoring, or let's say a poultry, I would say just not monitoring. I would say if you are talking about a poultry production software, I would ask these questions. I mean, whether this software solution is able to integrate all your data on the value chain. Let's say starting from your breeders until the final product. Let's say your egg or per kg of meat. Yeah. The other question I would also ask is whether the system is able to integrate or is flexible enough to put the data into the system in whichever way the customer want to put it. I mean, the digitalization should incorporate a certain strategy that should not complicate customer while using it. I mean, the way we look forward for digitalization is to create SOP, make the simple process, and also to be flexible to use at the farm level. Yeah, very practically, we should be looking into it. The third question I would say is, I mean, what are the prediction accuracy this kind of production software can bring for a customer before they send their products or they market or sell their products in the market. Let's say whether it can predict 95% accuracy of the body weight just before 3 days before they send those birds to slaughterhouse, for example. Are they are able to predict the egg production, let's say up to 95% accuracy? I would say these three main questions, I would say, are important when you are selecting, let's say, a livestock or a poultry production software, and also linking that into making predictions. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Jirish. There's another question also for you, and perhaps we can also ask Dr. Lo to comment on this afterwards. For farms that decide to digitalize, what challenges can they anticipate? And a follow-up question to that is, there are a number of stakeholders involved when you digitalize. How do you get them on board?
Yeah, I mean, I would say this is a very challenging question. I mean, getting on board of this, all the stakeholders on the value chain, of course, all companies who are looking into digitalization, yeah, is having this question. I mean, how can I get the buy-in from my counterparts? How can I get the buy-in from, let's say all the divisions on the value chain? The first year, I think what we should look is the company's digital strategy. Okay, what we want to achieve doing this digitalization. Yeah, I think this is the message should be conveyed all along the value chain. Yeah, so I mean, and also show there are benefits, not just bringing this additional tool for the employees to handle. I mean, they should show these benefits, let's say the efficiency, operational things, and also at the end, the bottom line. Yeah, I would say it should start with the strategy, and also the benefits should be seen in all divisions along the value chain. Let's say if only the farm is looking at it, I mean, it's not going to help. That's what I also mentioned in my presentation. I think we should also have collaboration along the value chain. I mean, even the internal value chain, let's say the breeding unit, let's say the processing unit, let's say the growing unit, and also the hatchery. I mean, if we have this common understanding, I think this would move. I mean, of course, it's also a challenge. I would say it's still a challenge. I think this is the area we should work
in any change that's introduced, it's a challenge, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Dr. Law, you went digital as well. So what were the challenges and how did you get everyone on board?
Yes, you have, like Dr. Giris had mentioned, you have to tell the whole value chain the advantage of using digitalization. So the biggest challenge is the language, no? Because when you do your data, it should be uniform. Otherwise, you cannot use it into the other system. But that's a challenge because most of the different users use a different language. So yan ang pinakamalaking challenge with us. Yeah.
Okay,
and of course, a lot of IT people, we hire a lot of IT to improve our system.
I'll follow up on that question on IT later, after this question for Dr. Rolian. Dr. Rolian, how true is that body weight at 5 to 7 weeks is very much important compared with a good body weight before 16 weeks of age, as muscles build up at a young age perhaps will be converted to muscle compared with build weight before lay, wherein it is possibly fat?
Yes, that's a very good question. But before I answer that, I'd like to comment some of the mistakes that I did in my presentation. Layer hens should lay between 25 to 26 hours, not weeks. So I stand corrected anyway. So your question is, of course, during the growing period, the body weight attainment and corresponds to the development of the vital organs. In this case, the muscle. No? So actually, talagang dapat all the time na nakuha mo yung weight. Pero ang aming point of no return is around 12 weeks. You should get your body weight at around 12 weeks. Kasi yung 12 weeks na yun, doon ay nag-i-stop na nag-ossify na yung ends na mga bones nila. So hindi na sila masyadong tatangkad. So that means you have to grow your birds at the proper weight and frame and hit the body weight at by 12 weeks of age.
If at 12 weeks you don't get it, that's it.
Medyo may mga disadvantages na growing.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Rolian. Dr. Sherwin, how do you control salmonella? Perhaps they're referring to when there's already salmonella in the farm. How do you control it? I think you mentioned about a holistic approach. Perhaps you can refresh us on that.
Yeah. In terms of salmonella control po, pwede natin kasing may dalawang approach po eh. May American model, may European model. When for the American model, they are more focused sa post-harvest ng products natin, such as yung sa slaughterhouse or sa egg processing plant, including yung transport and storage, yung poultry products natin, including yung education. Whereas yung European model, wherein they are focused on the pre-harvest po ng salmonella control. Nandun na po yung monitoring ng salmonella sa farms, sa poultry farms, from the breeders to the multiplier farms. And then vaccination. No? In terms of regulations sa Europe, all poultry farmers, or particularly sa layer, they are required to vaccination. On the other hand, sa US, they are not required. They are encouraged to vaccinate. That's why, in terms of salmonella control, I mentioned na kailangan holistic. No? You should ensure yung source ng chick ay salmonella free, yung breeders, and then yung hatchery, no, it's not contaminated, no, and then sa farm, yung vectors such as rodent, no, I mentioned about my data, yung rodents are one of the major carriers of salmonella sa farm. No, we need to address that, no, and then so feeds, I mentioned earlier that it can be another potential source. That's why yun, each farm, no, has different, no, how do you say that? May kanya-kanyang with regards to salmonella problem, iba-iba yan per farm. That's why monitoring, testing ng salmonella is very vital.
Thank you, Dr. Kamba. Perhaps you could also join the TWG of the salmonella control program that's being drafted right now. So I know nasa iyo ang expertise na yan. So we'll go back to you later. There's another question for Dr. Girish. Okay, so if in your experience, what has been the most challenging problem that you were able to check early on because of an early warning system?
Sure. I mean, there are the early warning system. I mean, it's a way to have an intervention so that it's early enough not to let's say have the loss of profitability. Yeah. What the setup should be is the main KPIs. Let's say what is the one which is affecting most. Yeah. Let's say the feed conversion. Yeah. I mean, or even the water intake or the feed intake, the indicators. I mean, these are the indicators what farmers or, I mean, the poultry producers will look on a daily basis. I mean, these are the ones, I mean, they can already see, let's say, this early warning. Okay, there is a reduction in the feed intake. Okay, something is happening. Either the bird is sick or the water line is broken or something is happening at the farm. Yeah. I mean, we should not create the parameters which, I mean, which poultry farmers won't look at on a usual basis. These are the normal parameters which they measure on a daily basis and also indicates the health status and the normal performance of the birds. Yeah. I mean, I would say, let's say our feed intake, feed conversion, water intake, and very normal parameters what we measure on a daily basis. Yeah, these are the parameters we should look into.
And those parameters would really impact production, right? Production cost.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, let's say even our feed conversion or feed intake. Yeah, I mean, this is already indicating something is going on at the bird level or at the farm level. Yeah,
Right,
and water intake again, one more parameter which I immediately shows something is not right at the bird level.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Girish. Dr. Law, here's a question from one of our participants. How can you inspire other poultry farmers and stakeholders to sell their products and produce directly to the retail stores and end user or consumers by passing middlemen or traders, lowering the retail prices of pork and chicken? So tatanggalin ang middlemen.
First, before I answer that, I'd like to add something about what Dr. Girish had mentioned. So, in our real performance, no, we're able to monitor our flock. No, there sometimes we can see that there's a lower consumption and higher humidity. So, with these records, with this data, we have to observe our birds and housing. And because of that, because of this data, we found out that some of the canals are blocked, so there's flooding in, not really flooding, there's a wet manure in our area, so we're able to monitor it using this data. So it's really important to have this data. So early warning kaagad yan, it can help us really with that. And regarding the second question, yeah, kasi doing meat retailing is really hard, no? But it's worth it because hindi ka hawak sa leg ng mga biyeheros, no? It's really there's a lot of hard work. You make sure that you really want to go into that, you know. Paano pa kaya may inspired sila? Kasi like we never bothered the prices of the farm gets low. So because we have these stores, we have these outlets to sell it. No, kaya yan isang advantage really. So those who are in growing, only selling to biyeros, you go further para hindi na kayo hawag. Talagang your kampante kayo na you will not be affected with the low price. Yan lang masasabi ko siya.
Thank you, Dr. Law. Dr. Rolian, there are a lot of questions for you actually. I'll shoot this one. Why is it that despite ND vaccinations, layer farms still have to contend with subclinical cases of ND affecting maximum egg production in layer flocks? What best advice perhaps do you recommend for these farms?
That's a very good question. It's a common problem among farms. If you feel that you have subclinical infection for whatever diseases you suspect, you better do the following. Number one, you have to monitor your blood titers by taking blood samples probably every 3 months. And then, of course, from the onset, you have to check your vaccination program as well as vaccination administration because there might be some flaws in there. No? You might have a very complete vaccination program, but the administration is not very poor, so that you will not have a good vaccine take. So it's really a matter of monitoring. And of course, you have to make adjustments. For example, if your farm is not previously affected with a certain type of disease like NCD, and then there's a trend that in your locality there's an outbreak of NCD, then you have to make adjustments to make sure that your farm is not hit with that field challenge. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Kamba, aside from antibiotic, will using formaldehyde 17%, combined with propionic acid 5% mixed through the feeds, control salmonella?
Yes, thank you for the question. Usually, yung sa feeds, no, even after pelleting or thermal treatment, there's a tendency na mag-multiply ulit yung salmonella. And that's why yung chemical treatment natin sa feeds, such as yung formaldehyde and some organic acids, are quite helpful in the reduction of salmonella sa feeds.
So pwede siyang gamitin in feed. Okay. Dr. Girish, how do you see the application or incorporation of blockchain technology in the animal food supply chain?
Yeah, I would say, looking into the blockchain technology itself, the principle is basically it creates the encryption of the data and puts the block of information so that it can be traced back and also cannot be unchanged. Yeah, this is what the principle of, let's say, the blockchain, what I understand. Yeah, I see there are some, I would say some especially there is already, the application is other fields is absolutely there. Yeah, the blockchain in, let's say, especially coming to the poultry. I would say it's not so, I would say not so popular yet, but there are attempts to use this technology. I would say, but I will also see that it will find its way into the process. Let's say for transaction between parts of the chain, like parties in the chain to certify production or product quality. Yeah, but indeed, blockchain becomes heavy quickly, and also it's expensive. Yeah, yeah. What it will not do is information to the customers. Let's say the flagship projects, for example, where consumers can scan a QR code in the supermarket, for example. Yeah, I would say, it can find the way. As I earlier mentioned, but I'm not sure at what extent it can penetrate. But looking into let's say the health, the genetics, the poultry genetics, where we see this data, it's solid enough. To the genetic companies where they also use this blockchain, or even the health companies use it. Yeah, that's how I see it.
Thank you, Dr. Giris. This is not a question but a comment from Dr. Rolly De La Torre. I can't stop myself commending the business model of Dr. Robert Law. Congratulations and more power to your company. And with that question, with that comment rather, this is a question for Dr. Law. What drives you to keep on improving your business, your company?
Yeah, super challenge. Like, I like to be on top of everybody. I want to be the first. I'm really an early adopter of technology. Yan ang sa akin, really to experience new technologies. Yeah, very open ako doon. And what are the challenges? Yeah, to be sort of kasi pride today, you're able to be the best in your field.
And you are right now.
Thank you.
Okay, so Dr. Lo, siguro follow up lang din doon. Of the 6 P's, which one is the most important?
Sa akin, it's process eh. So yung adoption of new technology. Like we're trying to go to AI na. So maybe 3 or 4 years we're going to AI.
Wow, okay.
So, but you have to have a good digitalization program. So nandiyan pa. Nagulat ako eh, huh? Medyo nainip pa ako eh when they told me, the IT group told me, it will take about 3 to 4 years. Huh? Hindi pwede 1 year na lang.
Kita nyo naman, techie si Dr. Lo. Millennial na millennial,
yes.
Diba? All right. So Dr. Rolyan, another millennial that we have here in our panel. Tama, Dr. Rolyan? Bakit naman? Dr. Rolyan, why is that despite very good vaccines and excellent vaccination programs, many layer farms still have to, ito na pala yung kanina.
Natanong na yan.
Yeah. Sorry for that. Any recommendations on what are the best thing to do if layer chickens have fatty liver?
Okay. We must remember that fatty liver syndrome is a chronic disease. You don't get fatty liver syndrome overnight. And you also get those, right, probably after peak. No? So the best way is to shift to a layer 2 or probably a layer 2, which has less calories. Because yung fatty liver syndrome is a condition where yung excess intake of calories is stored in the liver as fat. So you can do either reduce your feed intake. And I think one practical way of doing controlling this is to use your liver tonics. Maraming liver tonics in the market. The funny thing about that is maraming liver tonic na claim that you can correct your problem within 2 weeks, which is not really possible. Kaya sometimes nakiking sinasabi nila hindi effective in drug. Sa akin, on the farm level, yung kailangan doon sa cages ng hen, hindi magkakasama yung malaki at saka maliit. Dapat yung maliliit, pagkakasama sila ang same size para yung pag nagpakain ka, whether it's automatic or manual, chances are yung malalaking manok, yung mas marami kakainin, and they will develop, and those birds will develop the fatty liver syndrome, di ba? So in either case, magiging underweight at saka overweight, pareho sila mga itlog. So uniformity and precise feeding is very key in the prevention of fatty liver. Kung meron ka ng fatty liver, you have to medicate with liver tonic, kung anong choice nyo, pero eat gradually at saka continuously, let's say for at least 3 to 4 months, pwede mong gawin yan para makorek. Hindi mo pwedeng gamutin yan in 1 or 2 weeks. Hindi mo makukorek yan. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Rolian. There's a question for Dr. Kamba. Are there effective non-antibiotic alternatives to address Salmonella that is actually proven to be effective in actual practice in the Philippines? You mentioned a few earlier, but are there other alternatives?
Yes. Yesterday, may interesting na topic with regards to competitive exclusion. I think probiotics or prebiotics can be used to as one of pwede natin gamitin in order to address Salmonella. But yet again, hindi lang tayo magre-rely sa isang treatment. We need to manage Salmonella holistically.
Again, going back to basic, talagang look at everything, not just one portion of the problem. Dr. Girish, there's a question for you here. In a fully integrated broiler system, it is almost impossible to monitor daily feed intake as they are on ad libitum feed. Normally, feed consumption can only be measured after harvest. So how can you have a better prediction of body weight at harvest time?
Let's say, maybe for the prediction, yes. Let's say it can take, maybe there will be weekly body weight, I believe in that case. Yes, this could be a challenge. That's where the prediction accuracy can be a little bit affected. Yeah. But we how the system would work is also taking into, let's say, the current. I'm just thinking about the body weight at the moment. Yeah. Let's say even if you don't measure the feed intake on a daily basis, but I think I don't know how what about, let's say, the body weight or even other parameters on what intervals. Yeah, this could have actually have an impact. But the more frequent, the more data goes into the system of the current flocks, makes the predictions more accurate. Yeah, by practice. Yeah. This we can change a little bit. Based on looking into the models. Yeah, there could be chances to adjust those models a little bit. But again, we should also at the end think about how accurate the prediction would be. We are giving input and less input, and we are asking for the system to give a big output. This is how. This we need to think. At what level we can settle, at what prediction accuracy level we can settle. Yeah. I mean, yeah, this is a very interesting question, but again, it's a commercial, commercial practice, how the systems should work. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you,
More the
Dr.
data
Girish.
in goes in, but I also, yeah.
Okay, thank you. We still have a lot of questions here, but I'd like to ask the last question for Dr. Law. Dr. Law, what should be the mindset of a businessman like you to overcome the current challenges, especially during this pandemic?
Okay, yeah, you have to lower your costs, no, by improving your process, your technology. So para makalaban talaga, not only in your process but also in your marketing. Like there's a question about how does this pandemic affect us? Last year, 2020, the first year of pandemic, we have an increase of about 20 to 30% of our sales, no, in revenue because of restriction going to the wet market, no, and a number of days now open on wet market. So there's a tendency of the people to go to our store. But in 2021, many got the idea, nakaroon ng maraming resellers. Okay? So one thing na pwedeng nilang gawin they market their own products. So they process it, they sell, they have a lot of sellers to market their products, and nakakasama rin sa business world. But that's a good one. Magawa nila.
Yeah.
And,
okay, thank you, Dr. Law. It's really being nimble and being able to adapt to change immediately. Ayan. Yes. So with this, I'd like to thank our speakers. Thank you very much. I know it's not simple to prepare those presentations, those PowerPoints, and do the recording, but you did it, and you did it very well. Maraming salamat po.